afternoon and welcome to the 46th episode of the second season of Win TV. Boy, I can't believe, Sherry, it's been that long. And I was trying to make a correction on that. 46th episode, but it's the second season of Win TV. And we're still here, and we're so glad that those of you all who've been watching and keeping up with us are here as well. I'm Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. And we try our best to bring you the news that matters. It's hard to believe that it's been almost 2 years. And I come to you with a heavy heart today, I must say, because I don't know how many of you all have heard the news, but journalist, columnist, radio talk show host, activist, father, friend, Askia Muhammad has died. We got the news this morning, but the news went out yesterday that he's no longer with us. And it's sad. You know, Askia has been writing for the Washington Informer now over 30 years. He came to the newspaper when my dad was living. We were actually over at 7th and G Streets Northwest. That's where the Washington Informer office was, 715 G Street Northwest, right across the street from what is now, the Capital One Centers. And WPFW was around the corner on 9th and H. And I think that's when my dad and Askia met, and so much work that they were doing in the community that Askia was a part of. And he became a columnist for the paper. And if you read the Informer, Askia pulled no punches. His columns were strong, they were forthright, they were forceful, and we're going to miss that. It's going to be a big void, not only here at the Washington Informer, but, you know, our prayers go out to the folks at WFW, where Askia has been an institution at that radio station for decades. And just listening to the show earlier today and hearing so many of the folks who started out in radio and radio journalism were trained by Askia Muhammad. And, you know, it's a big loss. And you all may remember that Askia was also the national editor of the Final Call newspaper for many years. And so, you know, he's gone on with the ancestors. It's still a new departure and one that we have to adjust to. We will miss him. Our prayers go out to his wife and his children, and of course the entire community that has followed Askia and been blessed by his words and that smooth radio voice over at WPFW for many, many years. So I wanted to just say, in addition, you know, with every loss, and you all may not know, but we have a person that's part of the Washington Informer staff who just had a baby girl yesterday as well. And so we're happy to bring another another member to the Informer family. Her name is Naima, and she is the daughter of Teron Lively and his wife. And so we congratulate them because, you know, the family, you know, this is the family affair here at the Washington Informer. And you all may have seen that as well. I want to thank Sam Ford for the piece that he did this week on sort of the generational legacy of the Washington Informer, started by my dad in '64, taken over by me in '94. And now my two sons, Lafayette Barnes IV and Desmond Rollard Barnes, are also involved in what we do at the Washington Informer. So the legacy continues, and whether we're here or not, there will be those who will carry on the history and the tradition. And that's what we're talking about this month as we look at Black History Month, how we keep our stories alive, our legacy alive, our culture alive. And it's our job to do that, nobody else's. My daddy used to say, if it is to be, it is up to me. And so we carry on that tradition, and we certainly do hope that that the folks that we bring on to this show who are carrying on traditions, that we raise them and support them in their work on behalf of the Black community. You know, again, about the starting of WIN TV. We started the broadcast to stay connected to our supporters during the COVID-19 pandemic and decided to keep it going. So please let us know if you are enjoying watching WIN TV. I hope you've had a chance also to pick up a copy of this week's newspaper. I know Sherry's going to put it on the screen. And I always like to put up the paper edition itself. And it's interesting because we featured a lot of young people on the paper this week. And you'll see that little guy there. His name is Nathaniel Ezra. Nathaniel was one of over 100 children who participated in the Washington Informer's DC Citywide Cluster Spelling Bees this week. And we don't know if Nathaniel is going to be in the citywide competition that takes place in March, but we'll keep you abreast of that. But can you believe it? We have been sponsoring the Spelling Bee in the District of Columbia now for 40 years. March will mark our 40th year anniversary sponsoring the DC Citywide Spelling Bee. And just 5 years ago, we started sponsoring as well in Prince George's County. So we are really proud of the students, the teachers, the families that keep reading, literacy, and spelling at the foremost of what they do as a family activity and support these young people who hope to go to the National Spelling Bee, which will be held again right here back at National Harbor in June. So you also, like I said, you can read a copy of the Washington Informer at www.washingtoninformer.com. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit share so your followers can see the broadcast. If you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us and we'll follow you back. If you are a TikTok user, follow us there too. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. When I ask you to do these things, folks, I'm not saying it because, we just want to be sociable, but, we do. We want you to engage with us, but it's extremely, extremely important to our longevity on the digital side of what we do to make sure that we can count you as one of our followers. So today we're going to talk to Paul Coates, former leader of the Baltimore chapter, the Black Panther Party, and founder of Black Classic Press and BC Digital Printing in Baltimore, and Dr. Julius Garvey, son of the late Marcus Garvey, about a petition drive that we want you all to participate in. We're also going to talk to Portia Richardson, CEO and founder of the Tumaini, hope I pronounced that right, DC Incorporated, a nonprofit organization providing services to emotionally challenged students attending DC public schools. And she'll share with us how she's helping students to thrive. And we're also happy to have Sharone Townsend with us today. Sharone is one of 3 students winning the HBCU Target, I want to say that right, HBCU Target Black History Month Design Challenge for design he created. Want to know more about that? Keep watching. But first, we're going to go to our WIN TV news broadcast with journalist Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva will be allowed to compete in the women's singles at the Beijing Olympics after a decision by the sport's top court on Monday after she had previously failed a drug test. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, or the CAS, said that it upheld the Russian anti-doping agency's decision to lift the ban on the 15-year-old who tested positive for trimethazidine, a banned substance, on December 25th. CAS cited that the fact that Valieva was, quote, a protected person under the world's anti-doping agency's rules, which was one of the exceptional circumstances underpinning their decision. Erin Jackson became the first Black woman to win a speed skating medal when she took home the gold during the 500-meter speed skating event. Jackson's time of 37.4 seconds gave the American speed skating program its first medal at the Games in Beijing. Jackson remarked on her newly acquired accolade saying, quote, maybe a young Black girl saw my race or something, and she's like, oh, maybe I should try this. That would be amazing, even if it was just one person. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser said Monday that she is lifting the indoor mask mandate for many city businesses, as well as a requirement for people to show proof of coronavirus vaccination. However, masks are still required inside schools, childcare facilities, nursing homes, health and medical facilities, and city government buildings with public interaction. These changes come as COVID data shows significant signs of improvement over the last few weeks, with Bowser saying, quote, "Since the height of the Omicron wave in DC, COVID-19 cases have dropped by more than 90%, and there have been a 95% reduction in hospitalizations." Despite its promises to, Russia has yet to withdraw any of its troops from the border with the Ukraine. Reversely, the country added as many as 7,000 troops to the already 150,000 joined at the borders currently, with the troops arriving as recently as Wednesday. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said on Wednesday that we continue to see critical units moving towards the border and not away from the border. Moscow could launch a false pretext and invade the Ukraine at any moment. This is Curtis Knowles with WIN TV News.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Now we're going to turn quickly to our guests, Dr. Garvey, Dr. Julius Garvey, and Paul Coates. I want to welcome both of you to WIN TV, and when Dr. Garvey comes back, Paul, we'll get him in. But I want to start with you, since you're here. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you.
Yeah, before we get into that topic, I mean, tell us a little bit about Book Classic Press and how the book publishers are involved in this national or international, I'll say global effort to get Marcus Garvey pardoned.
So Black Classic Press, we're about 43 years old at this point. We're based in Baltimore. We specialize in publishing and republishing books by and about people of African descent. We've been aware of the campaign to exonerate Marcus Garvey for some time. And recently, I asked a number of bookstore owners and Black book publishers to come together and talk about whether or not and how we could support Dr. Garvey and the others involved in this campaign to exonerate Marcus Garvey. We came away from that meeting with a pledge and a declaration that we would support Dr. Garvey's efforts. As you know, just like with Black newspapers, Denise, our Black bookstores and Black book publishers have a sacred legacy. We're supposed to be the ones that are feeding the information that others will not feed into our community. We're the ones that are supposed to be making sure that information is correct and that it's liberating and that it empowers us. With that, the book publishers and booksellers agreed, and we pledged our support to the efforts that Dr. Garvey and CPAC have been leading for the last number of years to exonerate Garvey. So we have bookstores, we have Black bookstores around the country, and if you go in Black bookstores, they'll have ways that you can get to the site justiceforgarvey.org, and from there you can sign the petition to exonerate Marcus Garvey. And Dr. Garvey is with us, and I'm gonna, if you will bear with me, I'm gonna say less this time. Okay. Say it later if I can, because I want Dr. Garvey to get down.
Well, I do too, and I'm so honored, Dr. Garvey, for you to join us on the show today at this particular time when we have a global movement now to exonerate your father. And so I want to welcome you to WIN TV. And as we go into this discussion, I certainly want you to explain the difference between why we're asking for exoneration over pardon. I want people to understand the difference. So welcome to WIN TV, and I'm handing it over to you now.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Paul, for all that you have done and that you are doing in this particular effort. And not only that, what you've done over the years, both in terms of educating us about ourselves, in terms of our writers, and in terms of our history, and in terms of our great people. So it's indeed an honor to share the stage with you, if you will. On this occasion, which we are discussing the exoneration of my father, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who was charged, shall we say, with using the mail to defraud back in 1923, and was convicted in 1925 with absolutely no evidence The evidence was an empty envelope with nothing in it, absolutely empty. It had the stamp of the Black Star Line on it, but the person who presented the envelope could not remember what was in it. So there was no evidence that anything was ever mailed in it. It was an empty, totally empty envelope. Plus the fact that this witness had been coached by the district attorney to perjure himself, saying that he was an employee of the UNIA when he was not an employee of the UNIA. So the district attorney lied, and he coached the main witness in lying. And the judge went along with this instead of discounting the trial. So there was a judge who was prejudicial to my father because he belonged to a different organization that was hostile to my father's ideas, because my father's ideas was about independence. It was about the fact that we could develop ourselves, we could educate ourselves. We had a longer history and culture and a deeper understanding of self than the culture and the group of people who had enslaved us and colonized us and were still oppressing us and were attempting to dehumanize us. So he knew that we were the original people, that we had the correct DNA, we had the correct understanding of our consciousness. And before anybody else was conscious of being human, we were conscious of being human. So we're the prototype, and we do not have to take second place to anybody. And that was his message. He knew all about Kemet, he knew all about the pharaohs, he knew all about our history. He was, a genius who read widely, and he worked with the African Times and Orient Review in London. That was the editor was an Egyptian. So again, he knew our history, and this is one of the problems that we've had, and that's why I congratulate someone like Paul Coates again, is that our history was taken away from us. We don't know our history, and Paul has produced books by John Henry Clark and others who connect us to our history. Because if we know our history, like my dad says, then we would know that the black skin is a badge of honor. Because again, we're the original people, have original ideas about civilization and consciousness and society and politics and engineering and mathematics and astronomy, and I can go on, medicine and on and on and on, for thousands of years before anybody else had any of these ideas. You see? And I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right. Now I was going to say, I think it's really symbolic, and I'm not sure if this is why we decided to engage in this movement at this moment, to get these petitions signed to send to President Biden. I know this is not the first time, so I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that. But as we're in the middle of Black History Month, and give honor to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who himself, I think, had the same kind of focus as your dad, but your dad's mission was much. I think Dr. Woodson's focus was information, knowing, and your dad was knowing and taking action. What do we do with this information? And so if we could go back and really talk about why now and what this petition drive hopes to, what are you asking people to do to support, either pardon or exoneration?
Well,
you've
opened up a whole area, and
I know.
you can't not have me talk about the miseducation of Black people when you mention G. Woodson, who was a contemporary of my father and infected with the same Black consciousness. So, Carter G. said that how can you, have your kids or you be educated by the same people that enslaved you and colonized you, and then take their same moral and civic values as your own. I mean, those are the values of a slave owner. How can you take the same values? And unfortunately, this is what has happened to a lot of us. We've gone over to the other side because we've seen that is the easy way, so supposedly, to succeed in society. But to your point, there's a difference, of course, between a pardon and exoneration. Although, in some sense, a pardon could be used to exonerate if it states specifically that no crime was committed and there was an injustice. But pardon usually means that a crime was committed, and this is some form of clemency. But exoneration means to wipe the slate clean completely. And that means that no crime was committed. It's wiped off everybody's memory, so to speak, or off the books. And that's the only way to really create a just situation when there was a previous injustice. And of course, very often then it also needs compensation for the injustice. So it's not just saying, I apologize. It's like slavery itself. You can't just say, I apologize for slavery, because damage has been done.
Right.
So you need reparations, And it's the same thing I feel in terms of, what was done to my dad, what was done to the movement, Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, because that was really a nation in exile, because that was what my dad was building. That was what the people who belonged to the more than 6 million people who belonged to the organization.
Say that again, Dr. Garvey. 6 million people. I want you to stress that number. 6 million people belong to the organization. How did that happen?
Well, it happened.
They didn't have internet. They didn't have social media. How did that happen?
Because my dad was a catalyst for something that was brewing, and just like any chemical reaction, you might have A plus B, but very often you need a catalyst to give you C plus D. And he was speaking to the hopes and the aspirations of African people at that time, who had been enslaved, who had been colonized, who had been brutalized, who fought for democracy in the First World War, gave their lives supposedly for their country, to be free within their country, meaning here in the United States, the same thing in the Caribbean, and the same thing in Africa. So there was this wish and desire for freedom and to make a life that was compatible with your own identity as a human being, as opposed to a life in which you're being treated inhumanely as somebody who is subhuman. I mean, that's totally intolerable,
Yes.
for a human being who essentially is a spiritual, mental, and physical entity. That's intolerable over time. So he was expressing that desire on the part of African people all over the world to create a life for themselves. It was being free from, but also being free to. What were you free to do? You're free to make a life that suits you in terms of your own ideas, in terms of your own traditions, your history, and your culture. And that's what he was speaking to. And African people understood that. And he had his voice, and he had the Negro world, and we get back to Paul Coates and the word, and the word went around the world,
That's amazing. Yeah.
The Negro world, 75,000 contributors weekly. But
I read
all over the world.
I read Dorothy Height's biography and learned she worked for your dad at the newspaper. She wrote articles, I understand, at least this is what she put in her biography, and she used to help to edit the newspaper. And it's amazing. It was amazing how proud she felt to be at the feet of your father, to work at that publication. Paul, tell us, one thing I'd like for you to do, because you have Black Classic Press, if there's someone who doesn't know who Marcus Garvey is, what book would you recommend would be a great introduction into knowing more about him? And either one of you can answer that, and if you can unmute yourself and just tell us,
You're muted, Paul.
Yeah. Dr. Garvey, can you share something with us?
Rupert Lewis has written, many books. His most recent is a short biography of Marcus Garvey. Tony Martin has written books on my dad. John Henry Clark has written books on my dad. He has written one in association with my mother. My mother has written books, Garvey and Garveyism. The one she wrote with John. John was the major contributor. My mother did some of the research, etc., with him. Was Marcus Garvey and the Vision of Africa with John F. Clark. So those are some of the books that people can go to.
I'm glad you mentioned your mother too, because
by Ewing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No, I'll let Paul go. Paul, go ahead. Now, I think we can hear you now.
I want to. It's no accident. Many of the books that Dr. Garvey mentioned are published or republished by Black Classic Press. Many of them were out of print. We were fortunate to be able to bring them back in print. And my favorite, my all-around favorite is Tony Martin's Race First, where he looks at the ideological and political struggles of Marcus Garvey. So he's taking things apart and he's looking at each piece of it and bringing it together. There are a lot of good books on Garvey, and that one is probably at the top for me. It certainly swung me around and had me encounter Garvey when Tony was writing it in a more holistic way. I do want to say this. If I can say this real quick and go back, you hit on when you asked Dr. Garvey about that 6 million. You hit on one of the things that people overlook so much, and it's at the key of this move to exonerate Marcus Garvey. Think about it. 6 million people. Garvey used to say he had 6 million followers around the world. Sometimes the numbers would go up. They didn't go down too much. Du Bois would say, no, he doesn't have 6 million. He's only got 2 million. Okay.
Still.
But the idea, the very idea of anyone organizing 1 million people around the world, and let alone 6 million people, goes back to what Dr. Garvey is saying. Marcus Garvey came at a time of rising world consciousness of Black people. He had a vibration. The program he was putting forward vibrated around the world, and people organized wherever Black people were. The thing to get out of this, you can look at it that way, but you can also look at the powers around the world, the global powers, the white global powers around the world looked at Garvey and figured to take Garvey out, to take the whole movement out. That was their intent. And in doing that, Black people around the world went into a period. They didn't forget liberation because Garvey had planted the seeds of Black nationalism very deep, as he would say, and those seeds will not be extinguished. So Black people, you find countries coming alive on the continent demanding their liberation. Caribbean countries demand their liberation. But the move to get back together, to unify, that had been interrupted to some extent. This campaign, in its way, is a manner of bringing that unity back. So you find people are globally supporting. You find Black people in China, Black people in Africa, Black people in the Caribbean, Black people in South America, and of course the United States and Europe supporting this campaign, Justice for Garvey.
So why now? Why are we? And we haven't really told people about the petition drive, and I want one of you all to really talk about what that means and how they do it. And I will say, for those who have the Washington Informer, to see the Washington Informer, there is this in the Informer. Sherry, that was pretty quick. Okay, this is in the Informer for folks to its instructions on how you can be a part of this movement to pardon Marcus Garvey. But Dr. Garvey, can you talk about one, why now? And maybe both of you can talk about what the efforts have been that got us to where we are today. This is not the first time you've asked for a pardon.
Well, if not now, when?
Right.
If not here, where? So, the time is always now. We can only live in the present. You can't live in the past and you can't live in the future. But you use the past as the lens through which you look at the future, and you create the future. And as you say, we have done this before. We did this in 2016 with then President Obama. And we put the case to him. We had a law firm, Aiken Gump House Strower, that did a legal resume, shall we say, of the trial and showing all of its inconsistencies and its illegalities up and down. I mentioned some of them here at the top of the show. And we presented that to President Obama, requesting from him a posthumous pardon. It was ignored, and so we're back again at this present time. Well, do we think we have a better chance? But it's not a matter of chance. I mean, it will happen, and it will happen now, because I think Paul mentioned the rising tide, if you will, of Garveyism. And if one looks historically, my father always believed in a cyclical theory of history. I think you'll find that Garvey resurfaces with every 1.5 or one generation. He came in the 20s and 30s. He died in 1940. But then the 60s was the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power movement. That was another generation that grew up during that period of time. And then you went to the 90s, which was another period of unrest in terms of civil unrest and global unrest. And now here we are in the 20s. So you see, it's like a 30, 40-year period when one generation grows up. And so here we are. And the foundation is Garveyism, because that was what spoke and speaks still to the heart and soul of African people, to reclaim, as he called it, the redemption of Africa, which means to reclaim our history, reclaim our culture, reclaim our traditions. And again, we pointed out, how unique they are in terms of us populating the world and civilizing the world. So this is what has to be reclaimed, because if you look at the current systems, you see they're leading to disasters in terms of global warming, in terms of the toxicity of the air, toxicity of the water, toxicity of the food that we eat, and
Right.
the nuclear weapons, and et cetera, et cetera. But so those systems have failed. Those materialistic systems have failed. So we need now the African humanism, which is what my father represented, and which is what we as a people represent. African humanism. We need that now as the new paradigm that will sweep away the scientific materialism that the West has brought to the fore, but fails in terms of its answering the needs of humanity. So that's where we are at the present time, and that's why we have another rising tide, shall we say, of Garveyism, because people are fed up with the system as it exists.
I see. And Paul, tell us about the 100,000 signatures. Just tell us, what we need to know about being a part of this movement, the deadline, if there is one.
Sure. The most important, there is a deadline. This campaign began February the 1st, and it continues on through March the 2nd, if I'm correct, Dr. Garvey. And the fundamental thing that I hope that people get is that really to sign the petition, you would go to justiceforgarvey.org. And you had that on your screen a while ago, justiceforgarvey.org. In going there is a button, and you simply touch the button and it'll carry you over to the petition site. You will give your name, you'll give your email address, it'll ask, what do you want? And you simply type in there, exoneration of Marcus Garvey, pardon for Marcus Garvey, and that's it. Click. It's done. It's that quick. The one thing I do want to do is put this in some kind of context. So we're asking for 100,000 signatures now, and we will not stop. Okay, we will not stop. We get the 100,000, we will not stop. Even after if a pardon is given, we're going to push for the exoneration of Marcus Garvey. This has been the case since Garvey first went to court in 1923. Black people around the world came to his side and petitioned. In 1931, there was a large campaign again for 100,000 signatures. Black people never gave up on Garvey. It may look that way and seem that way, but there's always been a body of people in support of Marcus Garvey, and that's how we show up today. And we ask people to join us, justiceforgarvey.org.
Wonderful. We only have a couple of minutes left, and in closing, I'd like to know from you if or when the pardon is given and the exoneration happens, What's next?
Well, it's not a matter of if. I mean, it will be given, and we will wipe the criminal offense off the books in New York, the Southern District. We will do that as well. If it's not done from the White House, we'll do that here in New York, and we'll make sure that the story of Marcus Garvey is told by us, because there have been distortions of his story, and Paul is going to help us with that, to get the word out, the truth about who Marcus Garvey was, the truth about what he was trying to do, the truth about what we still need to do in terms of honoring those of our ancestors who died in the Middle Passage and those who fought for their freedom. We have to create a system that will support us as a people and allow us to develop to the maximum within the society. That's what civilization means. The civilizing of humans within society. We don't have that at the present time. We need a humanistic society, as I mentioned before, African humanism. We have to bring that to the fore with all the different systems, the medical systems, the educational system, the political systems, the social systems. We have to love each other, and along those lines. And we need to be able to communicate with each other without interference. We need to be able to tell the truth to each other. Again, I come back to Paul Coates and the black publishers and the black newspapers and the black media. We have to tell our own stories, and the way in which we want our stories to be told, not from somebody else's perspective who has always tried to dehumanize us. But we are human beings. We know that, so we tell ourselves who we are, and we tell others who we are. And if they don't want to be with us, that's fine. That is not a problem. We can survive in a sense on our own. We don't need to be at anybody else's table because we have a table. We invite them to our table. Well, we have our own table.
I want to thank both of you all so much for spending this time with us and explaining or telling the story that we really need to go out and read for ourselves and learn more about ourselves. The UNIA is still alive and well. There are chapters all over the world. And, there's so much for folks to learn. And Dr. Garvey, I just have to say, I am so happy that you mentioned your mother, Amy Garvey, because if you read those stories, you know that, she carried a lot of this burden herself. Sure. And she pushed this movement forward, and now it's in your hands. So I don't want to say your age, but I know that I hope that you'll get a chance to see this pardon before, the Lord takes you to go with your dad, but at least he can say to you, job well done. So we'll keep it going.
Thank you, Denise.
All righty, you all have a great day. 100,000 signatures. Go ahead and go to that website right now and get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Thanks, Paul. So next I want to bring up, we're on a mission. If you don't know about Marcus Garvey, please go on and do research and read about a man who really, really wanted, like Dr. Woodson. I mean, this is Black History Month, and if we're serious about having Black Lives Matter, it begins with knowing who our people are and the sacrifices that they've made to make sure that we were empowered, and that struggle continues. And it continues even in our next guest, who's Portia Richardson. She is the CEO and founder of Tumaini DC Incorporated. We're going to watch a brief video, and we'll be back with Portia in just a few minutes.
Yo, my name is Ruquan Brown, and I grew up in Washington, D.C. First, I went to Howard University Middle School, and then I went to Benjamin Banneker Academic Senior High School right across the street. Now, I'm at a school that starts with an H, not Howard, but Harvard. And I'm immensely grateful for that. There are 1 million people that poured into me, 1 million people that gave to me, 1 million people that took the time to spend with me listening to me, my fears, my traumas, ways that I was rejected, bad relationships, and more. And without that, I wouldn't be here. There are also people like my high school counselor who told me that Harvard was out of my league. Well, here I am. We need positive SEL. We need people to teach us how to deal with the very real things that we're dealing with in and out of our schools and in and out of our homes. I didn't make it here by luck or by chance. I made it here because the people that poured into me were very purposeful with how they treated me. To all of you, I'm forever thankful, and to anybody watching this, I'm encouraging you to take the time to pour into our youth, because our youth are our future. Peace.
Oh, Portia, I love it. I love it. Was he one of your students?
Yeah, he is he's actually our student wholeness consultant.
Okay.
We bring him in to facilitate workshops and mentor our students because he is a recent DC Public School graduate, has gone through some of our programming, but also more importantly, we actually bring Ruquan in to train the educators in our space to give them a student perspective, a youth perspective of the things that they need in the classroom as well as the community setting. So Ruquan is a pillar in the Tumani DC community.
Oh, he's fantastic. I definitely loved his message. What is Tumani DC? And I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
So it's okay because I hear it's all the time. It's Tumani DC, and Tumani means hope in Swahili. Tumani DC was founded in 2013, May 2013, by a middle school classmate and I, Lakeisha Wall. We both graduated from what is now Ron Brown, but back then it was called Roper. And
I remember.
I know you remember. Everybody remembers Roper. And we were literally, we were just like, transitioning from undergrad, going into our graduate programs, and we were both becoming educators. We were new educators in DC public schools. We'd only been teaching for a few years, and we very quickly realized the need for a culturally responsive and trauma-informed social and emotional learning program. So, of course, we got together. We started to do a lot of research about the needs, looking at the statistics in our communities, as well as using our classroom experience to determine what our students, what our communities, as well as what the adults in our spaces needed. And so we knew that there was a sense of hope. Just the general thing that we kept coming back to was we need to restore hope and pride in our community. And so going back to our roots, and knowing that our programs are intentionally developed to be culturally responsive and to prioritize Black and Brown students. Swahili is a very powerful language in our culture. And so Tumani means hope in Swahili. And we are on a mission to restore hope in our communities through social and emotional learning, trauma-informed care, and healing-centered practices.
So how does that happen? I mean, I love what you're saying. I love the concept. And we'll talk a little bit about, I'm saying I love the results, but I don't know what they are yet. But I'm going to assume that they've been positive results. But this is not a school, but how does it work? How do students get involved, or how do families get involved with the work that Tumani does?
Yeah, so I was a DC public school teacher for 10 years. So I was able to really utilize also a lot of my connections to think about how to bring this and how to create a referral program for us. The good thing is that we have a holistic approach to our programming. So we do offer, for example, a Level Up Leadership Academy on Saturdays where we teach leadership development and social and emotional learning. And that program is open to anybody. So a parent can refer their children. We have some clinicians who refer their students into those programs, as well as school staff who refer their students into those out of school, what we call out of school time programs, which those programs usually meet on, again, we have a Saturday program as well as after school programs, and anyone can register for those programs on our website.
What's the age or grade levels?
So currently we are supporting middle and high school students. But in June, we are going to launch our elementary school curriculum, and we are launching a social and emotional learning game. So we will be able to open and expand our reach to elementary school students as well.
And about how many students have you served so far? And tell us, besides Raquan, I mean, what do students experience, and what's the outcome? What are you looking for the outcome to be, to know that the program is being successful?
Absolutely. So, looking at our data, since 2013, we have served about 20,000 students and staff members, which is really powerful for us in terms of our impact. But when you see a student like Ruquan, and he's talking about how students need a person, everybody needs somebody that can support them in their journey inside and outside of the walls of the classroom. So we do center mentorship, providing a space for a safe space for students to just share, to discuss their feelings, their thoughts, and even some of the current events that's happening in our society as well as our communities. So everybody gets a person, right? We create these healing center spaces where we have healing circles and we allow for open discussion. We have literacy circles where we use culturally responsive text, and we right now we are using the text by Tony Lewis, Slug. He's from DC, and we're using that to cultivate literary discussion around social and emotional learning competencies. We also use drama, poetry, drawing, painting, spoken word to create and cultivate creative expression amongst our students as a form of social and emotional learning. We want to see a decrease in suspensions and expulsions across our schools. We want to see students showing up as their authentic selves in spaces. We cultivate identity so that they can feel empowered to do it, for doing that. We want to see parents more involved in the process and feeling safe to be advocates for their students. So we do some parent training as well. And we want to see healthier outcomes amongst our students. We see a lot of the violence and the things that's happening in our communities, but I always share that, like, somewhere there's a student on a Wednesday showing up for Tumani. They're not all in the streets. They're not all carjacking. They're not all doing the things that we see some of our young people doing. There are young people who really care about their growth, their development, and their elevation in their future. So we also empowering students to create a lifelong legacy and to influence change not only in their communities, but their own lives.
It sounds really, really great, because I think it's so needed. And as a once upon a time classroom instructor, I mean, could you say why a lot of this, maybe once upon a time, was able to happen in classrooms, but is literally almost impossible now? But what have you seen? What did you see in the classroom experience that said this is what's needed?
Yeah, I honestly know that, like, a great innovation sometimes come from great frustrations. And I know as a teacher, we are doing our best, and just speaking from we and as a community, a lot of teachers are doing their best to integrate social and emotional learning, mindfulness, culturally responsive education into their classrooms. But sometimes it's hard to find that balance because you are being evaluated. And a lot of times, they're looking for some very clear, like, academic standards to be met. So there were moments where I was doing a healing circle in my classroom, and I may have gotten in trouble for that because, we're supposed to be on this scope and sequence here. And I know that some leaders are a little bit more, flexible in that and are prioritizing social and emotional learning, so they understand. But sometimes it is hard for teachers to really find that balance. So that is one of the reasons that we do require our partners to not only look into programming or contract us to provide programming for students, but they also have to opt in to our culturally responsive training institute so that we can provide teachers with training and resources for integrating SEL into their projects, into their lessons, so that it doesn't feel like another thing to do, but it's what we do every day. It's already integrated and infused in the lesson. But that's definitely a challenge sometimes.
How is your program funded?
So we are grant funded, and I do want to give notice to one of our most recent funders, AmeriGroup DC. They provided us with funding to expand our programs across Ward 7 and 8. So with that capacity, we are able to offer some of those open programs, like the after-school programs where anybody can sign up, and we can make this more accessible outside of some of our school specific contracts. So we are grant funded, we are donor funded, and then we also have partners who will hire us and contract us to pay for our services, our training, as well as our curriculum.
That's fantastic. I am really impressed with what you're providing. Our kids need so much more, and in the midst of COVID, I'm sure it's been tough for them, tough for teachers. I don't know how you all function during COVID, but the doors are opening now and things are changing. And so, if people want to know more about your program or to get their children, grandchildren, neighborhood children, students involved, how do they contact you?
Yes, so our Level Up Leadership Academy is open. We have only had one session. We started last week with a very new Level Up Leadership Academy. So this is a perfect time to register your children. That happens every Saturday from 12 to 1:30. And you can register via our website. It's Tumaini, TUMAINI, DC.org. And if you click on SCL Academy, it'll take you directly to our registration page. You can also connect with us on Instagram as well as Facebook at Tumaini DC on Instagram. And feel free to shoot us the email, if you have any questions about our programs and our offerings, because there are opportunities where we create something tailored and customized to meet the needs. We have families who reach out and say, we need a mentor. I need a mentor for my child. And that's not a program that we offer right now where we have one-to-one mentorship, but we do have some rock stars on our team that we call Hope Leaders. And they do take on individualized mentor opportunities for students. So reach out to us, tell us what you need, and I can guarantee that we'll try to create something or refer you to a program that could meet your needs. So my email. Okay,
go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you that as well. Your email address?
Yep, it's Portia, Portia Richardson, RICHARDSON at TumainiDC.org.
And do you have to be a DC resident?
So yes, for most of our programs, you do have to be a DC resident, but we do host occasional programs and events where we open those to non-DC residents. But that is a great question.
Your Saturday program, is it in person now or is it virtual?
It's virtual. The Saturday program is virtual because we did want to increase accessibility, and we did some surveying, and we had several parents who are still a little bit reluctant about in person because of their, students are already exposed going to school. So we did want to offer a virtual option, but we do have some in-person events that we are planning throughout the duration of that virtual program. So there will be opportunities for in-person connection.
And I keep trying to wind up because I know we're running out of time. But my last question to you is, because your elementary program is going to start in June, when would people need to sign up, register, or inquire about that? Is there a deadline for that?
Yes, that's a great question. So we are going to open registration for elementary programming in May. So follow us on Instagram. Join our email list. If you go to our website, TumainiDC.org, you can subscribe to our email list so that you will be the first to know when that registration opens, because we're launching for our summer program with elementary, and we know that the spaces are going to fill up pretty quick.
Last questions too. Also, elementary, what do you mean by that? Is it like kindergarten through 4th or 5th, or what are the grades for elementary?
So it'll be mostly K through 5.
Okay.
All right. Yep, K through 5. So not we won't have anything for preschool just yet, but K through 5 will be the elementary school resources and curriculum.
Well, Portia, I want to thank you so much for being with us. We certainly want to know how Raquan is doing. We're looking forward to hearing about his graduation from school and his next career steps, and all the others that you impact through the program. So stay in touch, and we look forward to hearing more successes about Tumaini DC.
Thank you so much.
That was quick, Sherry. Thank you so much. But we do have to come on now with Sharone Townsend, because he's been waiting for a little bit, and I want to bring him on because Wow, I'm so excited. Sharone, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm great. Bowie State student, what year?
Senior, I graduated in May.
Fantastic. But you didn't wait to graduate from Bowie State University because you launched a design that won the HBU Design Challenge, Black History Month Challenge. Talk to us about that and Target and all of that. What'd you do?
Yes, so last semester, I actually, like I said before to Chevry, this wasn't my first time actually participating in this challenge. Last year, I was a runner-up, but I knew I had what it take to actually win. So, I came back and, I'm here right now. So that's a blessing.
What is the design though? Tell me a little bit more about what you created.
So I actually have it on right
Oh,
now.
okay. Oh, that's
Yes.
beautiful.
So as you can see, it's various hands of different colors,
Right.
and the design in general means unity. So it's different colors that represent just not just black people, but just different races together coming together. And one thing I did want to incorporate is if you can look, oh, you changed it. If you can look like right here, the bars represent prison bars because most of the black men are incarcerated. So we all know that. I wanted to throw something different in there, and then I have the African print in the background, which adds a nice contrast to it.
Interesting. And so, what did they ask you? I'd have to do a little fact check on that. On most of the black men are in prison, but I think we need to really fact check that one. But I understand why you put that in your art. But what happened? You had to create this, and did you have to create the sweatshirt and T-shirt, or how did Target get involved in this?
So the competition was us basically submitting a design. It could be anything, logo. You can pretty much something that they can put on something.
Hmm.
And they, once we give it to them, they was like, hey, I want to put this on a hoodie, T-shirt. It's on a bag, a baby's onesie, and a booklet. So they came up with that. That was their, what they wanted to do. But I just supplied them with the design.
So, is this product now available in Target?
And every Target nationwide, every Target, yes. And if people still want to get something, they can. But I advise going online because most of the Targets in where I am right now have been selling out pretty quick.
That is wonderful. Now, how do you benefit from that? I don't want to get into your personal business, but did you win a prize? Do you get commission off of every item sold? What's the benefit to you? Of course, people seeing your design, of course, is fantastic. It opens doors for you. But what is the benefit?
So the benefit in the beginning, of course, they gave us like some prize money, a laptop, like some other small like little prizes as well. But I believe the biggest thing is more so the publicity and the platform that we have right now, that where we don't get royalties, but we do have a chance to, right now, like I'm talking to you, and other people get to see the art that we create and what we actually, want our message behind our designs and stuff like that. So I believe it's a stepping stone into becoming a more profound designer.
And that's what was my next question, a stepping stone to what? And is that what you want to become, a designer, a clothes designer? What kind of designer?
So
You're already a designer, but what's next? I'll put it that way, especially
so
you're getting ready to graduate.
right. I don't necessarily just want to. I do have my own brand, but I don't want to just be labeled as a clothing designer. I want to, if anything, interior, either video editing stuff like that. So I want to kind of just be faceted and just kind of whatever happens. Right now, I know it's a lot of digital art and digital things that's going on that's very popular. So that seems like that's the next wave of art right now.
Now, does Target or do their folks actually provide you any other kind of support for your future goals? If you want to become like you said, you want to continue down this path. Do they provide any kind of, direction, support, or was this just a one-off? You won the prize, good to go, or is the door always continue to be open? Do you know?
Yeah, so I still actually keep in contact with one of the designers right now, and just pretty much about like permanent placement as a designer for Target. And even last week I did a call with one of the HR, actually the whole HR department, and I'm
Mm.
keeping in contact with them as well. So I feel like I'm networking with them. I'm trying to keep that door open because I would love to design for Target. I told them that from day one.
Wow.
I had to.
Okay.
I was advocating for myself.
I hear it. I hear it. So you're at Bowie. What's your major?
Visual communications and digital media art.
Okay. All right. And are you from the DC area?
I am. I grew up in Oxon Hill, Maryland. Yes.
Okay. What high school did you finish?
So I graduated from Crossland, which is in Temple Hills, Maryland. In my ninth and 10th grade year, I went to Archbishop Curl.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So what's the brand? Because we need to know what that's going to be moving forward. What's your brand?
So I'm
Brand
I'm
name.
so
I'll put it that
happy
way.
you asked. This right here is a sweater that all of my designs are very, very colorful, very unique. My brand is Stranger Than Nature. This is a knitwear, and this is a synthetic cow print right here because I don't hurt any animals in the making of what I do.
Okay. Stranger than nature. All
Yes, ma'am.
right. I
This is
like it. I
another.
like it. Okay. Now, are these at Target too, or where could people get the rest of your line?
So this is my own personal line, and right now, if you go to my Instagram, which is Stranger Than Nature, I actually have a website that should be up at the end of this month. So then people could go on there and they can make purchases. I also have kids bubble coats that I did, and everything's pretty colorful. I think if you like what I did in Target, you will love my own personal brand.
Where did you get your inspiration from, Sharone? What got you going down this path of designing?
Uh, you know, when I went into the store like in 2010, I would go into like various stores, and I never really seen how I wanted to dress in the stores. Like for men, it's a lot of black, green, blue, like just solid colors, and that it's I wanted something different, something more colorful, and I believe it's so many people that probably want the same thing. A lot of men get tired of wearing the same colors, so I just wanted to bring something different to the fashion world, and a lot of my clothes are binary, so it's not just male or female. Anyone can wear them.
I love the fact that you're right. I mean, men are wearing, I think the color palette has changed, and they're wearing brighter colors. I mean, it's okay to see a man wearing pink. Once upon a time, that would not
Right.
happen. So pink and reds and all of that, because I think you're right. They uh, want to get away from the blacks and blues and browns and greens. Although green's my favorite color. Sherry did put up the bubble jacket. Going to put that up again, Sherry. Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that butterfly too. That's nice.
Thank you.
That's nice. I want to just commend you. This is wonderful. You're on a great path. We always like to see folks, when they start off, and see where, if we can, how their uh, art and talent, where it takes them. So we certainly want to keep following you. Tell Target, thank you or will tell Target, thank you for selecting you. I'm sure.
Definitely, definitely.
How many folks did you compete against? Do you know?
It was nationwide, so I'm not sure a number wise, but I do know it was across the
Mhm.
U.S.
What'd you say, Sherry? 175 schools?
105 HBCU.
100, all the 105 HBCUs participated or were invited to participate. You competed before, you tried it again, and here you are.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, wish you much luck. We're going to look for Stranger Than Nature wherever it may be. It may be in Target. It may be your own store one day. Who knows? But we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Oh, Sherry. Yes. because we have up here a fundraiser, your GoFundMe. You see, you should not have let me in this without you telling me what this is about. What is it? You're looking for support for your brand, your line. Tell us what
So
the GoFundMe is for.
the GoFundMe is for my next big project that I'm working on, that is still in the makings right now. But I have reached out to my school and friends, family, the public, just to ask for support. It goes to marketing, materials, things of that sort. But with this fundraiser, it would allow me to get my foot into the door of bigger stores like Target or other stores that are similar to Target.
I'm glad you said that because marketing is critical in this business, and like you have those products right there, you got to get them out. And so we're happy or proud to be a part of that marketing process. This didn't cost you, but other marketing will cost you. And so, making sure that you can do the brochures, whatever you want to do to promote it, you do need funds or funding to support that. So I hope that folks that are watching will go to your GoFundMe. It is what is the GoFundMe? It's tell me
So
where they would go. Mm-hmm.
if you go to GoFundMe and type in my name, Sharone Townsend, it will actually pop up. But it's also, if you go to my Instagram, there's a link on there as well. It's Let me be very, very. Let me see, where is it at?
I think we
helped
have it.
me. Yeah,
Oh,
you have
okay.
it. Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You can tell me.
It's helped me get to 65K. That's what it is.
Okay.
Sharone
All right.
Townsend.
That's what you're trying to raise, $65,000.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that it happens. We want to see the product, Stranger Than Nature, everywhere. And we are certainly proud of your achievement, and just keep on doing what you do.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Have a great day. So that was great. Again, this is what we're all from this Black History Month. Dr. Curtis G. Woodson, wanted us to stay focused on the things that are important that we need to know about our people and our history and our legacy. Marcus Garvey started a movement around that. We've got a teacher on board now who is creating programs to support our kids so that they can excel as well. And even Sharone now, who is the product of what all of that means in our community. So I'm so happy they were there. Next week, I hope you'll be back to join us with another Black History lesson. We're going to be talking to Mr. C. If you don't know who Mr. C is, then you haven't been in DC long enough. But if you remember WOL, and actually he's still on the air, Mr. C. So we're going to talk to him, the master of oldies but goodies, and make sure that we're going to have a conversation with him about music and radio and how it has evolved over the last, we won't say how many years, but at least 50, right, Chevry? Maybe at least 50 years, because Mr. C has been with us that long. So we're going to end this show now. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Do we have, that's right, the Bridge will be with us next week. So you can go now. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we will see you same time, same place here for Win TV. This is Denise Rolock Barnes saying have a great weekend.